Good morning, Doctor.
Yes, a very good morning to everyone, and welcome to our fourth series, How Money Works, Part 2, where Dr. Charles Barugahare will focus on influencers and modalities. He will give a recap of the first series, and we will also get the opportunity to ask questions, comments, and give him time to respond to all the issues raised. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Charles Barugahare in today's fourth series presentation, How Money Works. Dr. Charles, you're most welcome.
A very good morning to all of you. Today, we look at the 4 influencers of how money works and 3 modalities of how money works as part of the series of outright financial webinar series. It's an exciting morning. I want to thank you, Dr. Robinson Ogwang, for moderating, and I want to thank Victor behind the scenes for ensuring that we are connected. Just in form of an outline, we look at the recap from the last webinars. Why? Because financial improvement is a journey, it's not an event, and therefore we'll build from that aspect to make sure that we can connect the dots between what we covered last time and what we are going to cover today. We then look at how money works, focusing on the influencers and modalities, and then we'll head straight into our discussion, and then we'll conclude. So just straight away heading into the recap from our last webinars. In our first webinar, we focused on how to break expenses rising to outpace income. But to get into that understanding, we looked at the essence of personal financial management. Why do we need to get involved in personal finance improvement and management? And then we headed later into why expenses rise, and they always rise outpace income. And we proposed ways and means to deal with that. In the next webinar, we looked at nurturing financial mindset, where we focused on the principle that what you know gives you the results you have. And that in order to change the results you have, here in this case, I'm talking of the financial results you have, you must change what you know. And we delved in deeper insights into that. In the third webinar, which was how money works, the foundations, we talked about how a good or service is the source of money. The money comes from a good or service, and it's the value or impact of that good or service that determines the worth of money you can get from that good or service. We also looked at how money works in terms of an employee and from a business perspective. Before we move on, I want to emphasize that all these webinars are on our YouTube channel, FinanceLIP_. They can also be accessed on our website, www.financelip.org. Allow me to say this with words from Timothy Ferris, that money is influenced by what you do. That money is influenced by when you do it, and that it is influenced by where you do it from. And it is also influenced with whom you do it with. To bring this home, it is the interest in what you do that influences how you relate with money. It is the desire in what you do that drives when you start to do it. It is the commitment that you have towards making change anywhere that drives what you do, that drives when you do it, that drives where you can do it from and whom you can do it with. It's the actions, the consistent actions that you can gradually take that can drive what you do, when you do it, where you do it from, and with whom you do it with. But it is equally the resilience that you have with what you do, when you do it, where you do it from, that can drive your efforts to any journey, any improvement. Let's straight away head to the 4 influencers of how money works. I will start off with the first one, intense desire. It is the drive, the interest that becomes paramount in influencing how money works in your favor. And to look at this, intense desire drives change. I want to share with you a story from a Sassy banana vendor. This banana vendor, I used to buy from him matoke. But each time you go to buy from him, he would tell you, thank you for coming. Your coming is making me work towards my dream, which is to make sure I work towards having a supermarket. So he had to drive to change. Right now, this banana vendor has a retail shop, which I believe is on a journey to his dream, which is a supermarket. So the intense desire would drive the message he would share with the customer. And because of that, that would encourage me to regularly buy from him. So intense desire drives change. So do you have intense desire in your journey to personal finance improvement? Are there things in your financial life that you believe you can change and you are working steadily on changing them? The second is raising the standard. Raising the standard. Here, there are things that you start to say, I don't tolerate in my personal finance improvement journey. And I want to share with you one of my coaching clients who came to me with a message that I am tired of always having no money in terms of liquidity when I actually earn reasonably. So I saw from her that she was very, very committed to raise her standard of making sure she has some money with her on a regular basis, so that when money comes, she does not blow it away all the time. The desire to have and raise the standard in your personal finance improvement journey is key in terms of influencing how money works in your favor. The third is intense desire to create value. And I want to share a colleague who happens to be engaged with the Innovation Hub. And he brought to me a student who had created some software and was passionately marketing it to make sure that he gets a sponsor to have that app and running. I saw the interest of the guy, of that young boy, having created value in the app and trying to market it. I saw the desire. I was looking forward to this guy getting a sponsor, to this guy having his app work up and running. And that value the gentleman created. He was out of intense desire. And you can also create intense desire in whatever you are actually doing. You can also create intense desire in your growth journey. Phil Knight, the proprietor of Nike, said life is growth. You either grow or die. The message here was that every day there must be things that you are working towards that improve yourself. Now, in this case, my focus is the things you are working around yourself with intense desire to improve your financial situation. It's a gradual and systematic process that you can continue to undertake on a regular basis to make sure that you can continue to grow in several ways around yourself. Then the intense desire to create impact. I normally receive this joke that if nobody is eating part of your money, then you have no money at all. The reverse is also correct. That if you are not creating it, then you can't able to do service. Then you cannot attract money. So the intense desire to create impact around your financial life is very critical because you need to create impact in whatever you are doing. Let me move to the second influencer of how money works, which is clarity. Clarity in terms of two things. Number one, needs, and number two, wants. I want to tell you that you can get a meal of 2K. My young teens tell me 2,000 is just 2K. You can get a meal of 5K. You can get a meal of 20K. You can get a meal of 50K. You can get a meal of 100K. You can get a meal of 200K in Kampala. The question is, a meal is a meal, it is a basic need. But is a meal of 20K, is a meal of 50K, is a meal of 100K, is a meal of 200K, depending on your level, a basic need? If the answer is yes, then it's okay. But what is important here, the clarity is that if you have clear, well spread out needs, then you can gradually improve on your standard of needs. For instance, if you have been eating a 2,000 meal and you have improved in your financial situation, you can now afford to consistently have a meal of 5K. Then it's okay to lift your standard. You will have lifted your needs level to where you can afford of 5K of a meal. The same applies if you are at 5K and you have uplifted your income and you now have consistent capacity to have a meal of 20K. Then you can shift your basic need requirement of food to a meal of 20K. This is why wants can never be satisfied. Why wants cannot be satisfied? It is because they keep shifting. But needs don't keep shifting. If one of the things that are putting on you on pressure is the car to transport your children to school, then any car can serve that purpose. That means if you buy a car that serves that purpose, even if you see many people using it as taxi, as whatever, it will not be bothered. But if you buy a car because it is a want, the next day you see many people using it as a taxi, you start hating your car and you start to change that car. And you will incur more costs to change that perspective. So therefore, clarity influences how money works because you need to understand your needs and grow gradually with your needs. You need to distance yourself from shifting to wants, because wants can never be satisfied. I want to move to the third influencer of how money works, which is the math. Some of you may think we are going to do calculations here. I am not going to do any calculations here. But it is very important we appreciate some math. Now, I attended a workshop several years ago, and the facilitator said, most of you in this room have reviewed financial statements, have prepared financial statements, have monitored financial statements, have prepared budgets, have monitored budgets of your respective institutions. And he posed the question, how many of you as individuals have prepared your financial statements? And then asked, how can you then improve your financial situation if you are not improving and monitoring your financials? He says an organization every month reviews its budgets and checks whether they are in compliance. Every month they are looking at how they have financially performed. He posed the question and asked, how can you expect to make financial improvement when you are not doing what you actually do at your workplace, and you expect it to change at your home and in your personal financial life? This brings me to the power that is within numbers. Philosopher Plato says that the numbers are the highest form of knowledge, that in fact, it is knowledge itself. When you look at it this way, numbers of, say, what you have budgeted for and what you have actually spent is knowledge. Why? It guides you in the next subsequent budgeting. Nathaniel West says numbers constitute the only universal language. I sometimes engage with Chinese, and they will tell you a tile is 45,000 per square meter. They will be speaking it in a funny form of English. But what the key message in there is that you will be able to hear 45,000, and you will also be able to hear the money you offer. And if the money you offer is able to facilitate him make that transaction, then you will get interested in moving forward. You will also be interested in how many square meters you are looking at, so that he can see whether he can lower the price. So it's not the accent, which is the either American accent or whether European accent or whether international school accent that will be important here. What will be important here is the message in the math that the person doing business with you is paying attention to. If he's going to invest with you, then, and you're going to merge two companies, one from Uganda and one from China, then you will be asking, what are the returns? What is your return on investment? And that's the math we are talking about. We are not talking about complicated math. We are talking about basic math. And if you are to make improvements, one of the influencers of how money works is the math you will play with. The fourth influence of how money works is the multiple streams of income. And this starts with identification. There are about 7 streams of income that is generally around most of us. And these streams of income include earned income, which is money earned from salary or allowances. It includes interest income, which is money that you earn from putting your money, either invest it in a circle, invest it in an investment club, invest it in a unit trusts, invest it in bonds so that it earns you interest. The third is profit income. You sell a valuable good or service at a margin, and then you are able to earn a return or income. The fourth is rental income. You have a property, which may be land, you lease it out or rent it out, and every year they are paying you rent for using that piece of land. Then you have a building that you rent, and they are paying you monthly or every 3 months or every 6 months for using your building. So you will earn rental income. The next form of income is capital gains income. Capital gains is that you buy property, say you bought land several years ago at say 2 million, and now you are able to sell this land at 5 million or 7 million or 10 million. And when you do that, the difference between the 1 million and whatever price you sell it at becomes the capital gains income. The same applies to shares in that context. If you bought shares in a company and you bought a share at say 100 per share, and the share price goes up to say 200 shillings per share, if you choose to sell your shares, then you get capital gains in your shares. The next one is dividend income. If you bought shares in a company and the company that year makes profit and declares dividends, then you earn dividend income. And the last one that I want to share is royalties. If you created an invention, if you created or if you wrote a book and the publisher is marketing and selling your book, each time a book is sold, then you continue to earn royalties that will be able to pay you either every 3 months or every 6 months or either at the end of every year. Or if you developed an app and you sold it, and one of the terms was that you will retain a smaller percentage within the app, then each time the app makes money, then you will be paid those royalties. So the question I want to pose here is, first, you must know that these income streams exist. Why? Because if you don't know, then you cannot even work towards them. The second is that then you must move into how many of these streams of income am I participating in? What is my drive to participate in any of these three, or in any of these 7 plus streams of income? Once that is in your mind, it's in your direction, then it leads us to the next step. The next step is learning. The next step is that you have known currently that you have one stream of income, which is maybe earned income. You are earning from only salary and from only the allowances you get from salary. The next question is, how can I learn to the next quick win, which is interest income? Interest income means you sacrifice some expenditure today and put the money aside towards the investment in your circle, towards the investment in your investment club, towards the unit trusts, towards bonds, and in a few months you'll have started to earn interest income. And the same can go on to any other streams of income. That's why it is very important that learning becomes the next step after identification. You identify, then start to move into learning and gradually heading to where you can make progress. The third is taking action. It is said that many of us have access to a lot of information, but how many of us gradually and consistently take action? If you have identified that you only now have one stream of income, how can you gradually, with vigor, with energy, with intense desire, move into taking action? Because if you don't take action, even if you have identified, even if you have learned, then it will come to waste. And finally, the fourth is the results. When you have identified, you have learned, you have taken action, you certainly start to see results happening around your income, how you manage money, you have influenced how money works using the multiple streams of income drive. Allow me move to money modalities. Financial experts say that time, knowledge, and assets are powerful resources everyone needs. But financial experts also say that anyone who has any of these two can use those two to get the third one. And that's the focus of this modality this morning. Now, if you have time and assets, then you can use these two to get the knowledge. And I will share this from a perspective of our parents. Our parents had some time and had some very little assets. They had some piece of land, they had some gardens of matoke, they had gardens of cassava, they had gardens of sugar canes, and these were the assets they had. But because they knew knowledge was very important, they sacrificed their time and their assets to make sure they educate their children. So they used their time and their assets to facilitate knowledge for their children. And now, the children, to get knowledge, and now the children with knowledge can use knowledge and time, to get assets. Does that click? What I'm trying to say is that because they had time and some assets, they prioritized acquiring knowledge for their children. And because now children have knowledge and time, they can use it to acquire assets. Now let's move into time and knowledge. Now, when you have time and you have knowledge, it becomes automatic then that you can use these two to acquire assets. How many of you that are in Kampala came with valuable assets? Most of you came with the physical body and knowledge. And it is because of those two that you played with to get the third one, which is assets. And the same applies to knowledge and assets. That when you have knowledge and some assets, you can use it well to use your time productively, to use your time meaningfully, and to use your time to be a better and improved person. So in terms of a modality, the message here is that if you have any of these two, then you can use it to get the third. I want to challenge you to think around this, of how you can use the two to get the third. Now, it becomes even more important if you have the three, but in small quantities. You can even then play with them to get something better. I want to wind up because I want to spare some little more time for our discussion and engagement with a message that how money works is influenced, so how money works is driven by the foundations, the knowledge, the basics around finances, being able to control. Then it is influenced by the four aspects I talked about, and then driven by the modalities, the three modalities I've also written about. So the message here today is that who you are today is not who you can be if you start to change a few things in your life. You need to do what you must do with the desire and consistency, particularly if you want to see changes in your financial life. You now have the good understanding of how to connect the three dots. The three dots are the foundations, the influencers, and the modalities. You can now connect the two to see how you drive improvement in your financial life. I want to call upon you to visualize what you can stop doing that is limiting you from pursuing your financial improvement journey. I want to call upon you to start taking action in the things that you have not actually been doing, but that support you in your personal finance improvement journey. I want also to encourage you to continue doing the things that have been empowering you, motivating you, driving you into being a better person, into being a better product, into driving improvements in your financial journey. I want to end with a quote from Marshall Goldsmith, that what got you here won't get you there. What got you here won't get you there. So what you picked in your early ages was able to move you to here. But to move to another point, you need some new skills, you need some new strategies, you need some new perspectives. And this is why FinanceLIP is committed to ensuring that we continue to share, to make sure that we get from where we are and maybe move to another level. I want to thank you so much for your time and for listening. I hand over to you, our moderator.
Dr. Charles Barugahare, thank you so much for excellent presentation, illustration, and great inspiration. Dr. Their questions, their comments, but to start with, background in finance, accounting, audit, and international management as an accounting officer, you have brought the issue of intense desire. And what's most is the issue of change management. From that kind of perspective, putting yourself in the position of a chief executive officer of an enterprise in Uganda with challenges, what would you consider to be the best way forward such a chief executive officer, especially to change process, culture, and structure in order to improve cash flow? And then the second question would be money modalities, where you talk and provide a lot of illustration on time, assets, and knowledge. To a young person who have just completed his or her university education, armed with a qualification or his qualification, how to earn assets from the knowledge and the time available before him or her. because looks like your background doesn't determine what you are in the future. We want you to have this so that we can move forward, get comments, just to provide more illustrations. But it has been very good presentation, great illustrations, relevant local examples, very clear, lot of information. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robinson Ogwang. The aspect of cash flow, particularly for CEOs, is a matter that is not only for CEOs, but it's a matter for every individual. Why? Cash or cash flow is the lifeblood of a business, of a home, of an individual. That's why when I talked about the experience from the workshop I attended where I was asked or were asked whether we have ever prepared financial statements for ourselves. The main reason was that when you prepare those statements, then you start to understand the critical areas that require attention. Are you able then to drive cash required to meet the day-to-day requirements of your business? Those are the questions you start to pose and ask yourself. So if you fail in month one, then you have the energy and drive to prepare for month two because you have been hit hard. But if you have, it is not deliberate, then you will continue in that mess without easily getting out. So when there is a deliberate, intense desire to make changes in the way you manage cash, to make sure that you have some cash flows, yes, I'm not saying it will be bulletproof, that you will never have cash flow challenges, but what happens then is that you start to gradually know where the loopholes are and improve with time, so that in a period of 3, 4, 5 years, you have no cash flow shortages, or you have the cash flow shortages to the bare minimum. So the important thing is track with intense desire and monitor and drive to cause changes. Then you have talked about a young person who has just left school and is focused on how he or she can use the knowledge around modalities of how money works to manage his life or her life. The point here is that we must accept that we need to start small and we can gradually improve. I want to reflect on a perspective of some of our parents. Some of our parents were basic peasants who did not go to school, but they had a perspective that if you sell some coffee and put some money in the bag, by the end of the 3 months, you will have some money to take the child to school. And that even if you put on torn clothes, if the priority is to take your child to school, then you would be able to take that child to school. The same thing with these young people. You have the time, you have the knowledge, you can systematically work on something small. And the first point to start from is to enhance yourself, to enhance your skills. You have gotten a degree, but the degree is not the skill. It's not the value somebody is looking for. Have you enhanced your communication skills? Have you enhanced your engagement skills? Have you done several interview sets for yourself and see how you perform on camera, on your phone camera? How you answer certain questions and begin to understand why maybe you are not passing that interview that you prepared for and you are not successful. So for me, it begins from the perspective that you realize that you have the resources, the key resources around you. One is time, and there is plenty of knowledge and information on several platforms, Google, YouTube, that can empower us to be different, that can empower us to be better, that can empower us to change ourselves. And therefore, for the bare minimum, that student has the time, that student has the knowledge. And then I strongly believe over time, it's not a one-day event, you will turn those two into the third, which is the assets. And the assets are in various forms: the financial resources, the intangible assets, and then the physical assets. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. And from your presentations, I can see a lot of illustration and guidance. Early addition, I would say, by way of improving our skills, decision-making skills, financial management skills, planning skills. But Dr. Charles, it is very common practice, and it's a big challenge to most people, including myself, that talking of multiple streams of income, but one may consider the cost of having multiple streams of income and or diversification of income as opposed to building a strong business case over the years. This is a serious decision-making challenge or issue. How would you advise, especially those small, medium enterprises, those who are just starting up businesses? How do you encourage them? How do you share relevant or specific examples where applicable? Because at times translating knowledge or theory to practice is a big challenge to most business owners, and because of how to anticipate change and what comes along that. Then the next question would be, how can all this be sustainable? How can all this be sustainable in long term, especially their businesses that are built on family models? How do you ensure that some of these best practices becomes the culture and is sustained long term, passed from generation to generation? Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much, our moderator. The aspect of balancing the skills, knowledge, decision-making for our businesses, particularly the young entrepreneurs, is something of critical importance. But I think it lies within the aspects we have discussed. The first is the intense desire. Now, a number of times we get into a business and because we get into a business because X is doing that business. So a day we get a challenge in that business, it's the day we believe that that business is not working. But that is not the case. As you do business, you will meet challenges, and it's the number of times you deal with those challenges that will drive the experience towards each aspect. So intense desire in the various aspects that we talked about becomes very important. Then the second thing is clarity. What was the end in mind at the time you got involved in this business? What were you looking towards? Were you looking at as an event that in 1 year, in 3 months, you will get to there? But if you are foreseeing that in 2, 3 years, in 5 years, this is where I'm going. In year 1, I've moved to level 2. There are 12 levels, but I've moved to level 2. In year 3, you have fallen back to level 1. In year 4, you have jumped to level 5. Then you will be able to say there is progress. But if you go into something where there is no clear clarity, then you can easily be diverted. And one of the challenges is that you are in a business and the other family members are also not appreciating the business you are in. So you are the only person, the other staff or team you are working with don't have that clarity of where you intend to be. And because of that, what they are doing are not actually driving the same focus. So I strongly believe that these influencers are the ones that can facilitate sustainability, that can facilitate stability of that income. Now, moving to the aspect of how can we make these businesses sustainable? First, I strongly believe that we need to have our math right. And our math right, I strongly believe, is from the awareness perspective first. How are you monitoring and measuring your numbers? And what numbers are you working towards? And what efforts and what energies are you moving in the times when you don't achieve those numbers? How do you respond? In the times where you achieve those numbers, how do you respond to multiply them back? How do you respond to now say, I was lucky this was COVID time and my product picked up, but what about after COVID? Will my product pick up or it will go down? That ability to be able to do some risk assessment, to do engagement with people, peers in the same industry, peers outside the same industry, to see where the trends are heading to, and be able to change in terms of strategy, but not the goal. If you are able to change, to keep changing strategy to where you are supposed to go, but without losing focus on your long-term goal, then you should be able to be sustainable. I think that would be a key thing to consider, particularly we don't largely monitor and we don't largely assess, and we sometimes find ourselves when we have fallen down. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles, for that wonderful clarity and guidance. In most cases, especially in Western capital, there's that belief that in Africa, we don't share a lot about our business failures. And we also don't talk so much about our business successes. How can you, because I know the business owners here and there are also those planning to start up business enterprises, and there are also those learning from this conversation. How do you see this as a platform that can facilitate conversation where we share our successes and also we learn from our failures? And then lastly, I know there are board members on this forum too, and on this platform. What message do you have, Dr. Charles, for board members who are on this platform this morning? The kind of message that should come from the top down that can influence policy and also practice in the organization, so that the issue of cash flow and the issue of sustainability, which you have very well illustrated, can have significant impact, because we want to see how impact can be created in the community, so that we only see profit, but we also see standard of living raising or rising. And finally, do you think there's a message here for NGOs? Because there are people who will be working for NGOs or planning to set up one, so that from the money they make from the business, they can have impact on the community. I want to leave you with those few questions, and also you to provide administrative announcement as we come to the end of this morning session. I want to thank everybody who attended. Over to you, Dr. Charles.
Thank you so much, Doctor. The aspect of sharing success stories and failures around our personal lives around businesses is relatively low, particularly in Africa. And but my experience is that these details are not shared in the public, but I have found that when you engage with a particular individual one-to-one, is free to share that kind of feedback. Actually, when you engage one-to-one with a successful person who has gone through many failures, he will be able to tell you that this, make sure you avoid this because it will land you in trouble. Make sure you take care of this, you take care of this, you take care of this. So the important aspect here is we must have mechanisms that facilitate individual dialogue, particularly with people we aspire to be, with people we aspire to, with people who are like our role models. All of those help us to give us a perspective of where we can be in our business. But what I found is that any person I've contacted one-to-one is able to share. I think what people are not comfortable to share, particularly on the failures, is in the public. Because some of the failures that are deep into the actual issue are not really very good for the public. Somebody will not tell you, my business collapsed because I put money in gambling. That one will not say it in public. But when you meet him one-to-one, he will actually tell you, you know what? I wanted to grow fast. And because I wanted to grow fast, I wanted to divert into multiple streams of income, and one of them was gambling. And I lost all my money that I put into gambling. And this forced me to pick even what I had to put into gambling. That part will be able to share it, but you will not easily share it in public. Now, the second aspect is on what message is in here for board members, for NGOs, and so forth. Now, the message that is in here is that at any point of an organization, the aspect of desire, intense desire from the leadership, from the staff, is key to cause transformation. The second is clarity. Where is the organization heading to? The third is, are you able to continue looking at your numbers? If you are in an NGO, are your clients, are your products that you are, services that you are offering, are you able to monitor and track those numbers? Are those numbers aligned with the budgets? They are fighting for money around those budgets. And then, of course, the ability to go on with consistency in those efforts of clarity, of desire. The key word here is that if you pick a good lesson, follow it consistently. For me, that's the message that I can share. I want to thank you so much for your active participation, and I sign off now. And thank you for your involvement in this webinar. The next webinar will be on 25th of September, 2024. And we'll be dealing with money, myth, and fears. I want to thank you so much. I hand over to you, Dr. Robinson Ogwang, for any final remarks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have come to the end of the session.
Yes, Chief.